Front Row Rugby. Interviews with rugby legends with Peter Stemmet.
Our guest today is former Springbok loose forward and captain Tiaan Strauss. Tiaan, a warm welcome to Front Row Rugby.
Thank you very much, Peter, and great to be on Front Row.
Just before we get started, the trivia question for today. Who scored the Springboks' first test try of the 1993 season? If you know the answer to that, you can put it in the comment section below. Also, at the end of our conversation with Tiaan, we'll find out if he knows the answer to that question as well. Tiaan, let's start in 1992. How disappointed were you to miss out on those first two test matches against the All Blacks and the Wallabies?
Yeah, I think, Peter, it was obviously a new era that we were going into, and it was just great to see international rugby back, in South Africa. So, look, obviously, everybody's got hopes, and the rugby's been going quite well at that stage, but I haven't been part of that any Springbok group. I know they had the invitational team that we played against the Pacific Islands in '89, and I think also it was almost that selectors wanted to give the guys that were almost towards the end of their career a chance to play for the Springboks because they've missed out so long. So yeah, obviously you were hoping to be part of the group, but it wasn't like a thing that you were really disappointed, because I don't think I expected to be part of the group at that stage. So yeah, but it was just great to know that it's starting, and that we're getting back into international rugby, and then hopefully we knew there's going to be tours and stuff, so it was great excitement for all the players.
And speaking of that tour, you went to France and England at the end of 1992. You made your debut against France. How special was it to also win that day?
Yeah, no, it was quite special, because I think the French were the outright favourites. We, came off obviously the two tests that we lost in South Africa, and then also a lot of new players, a lot of young players that's never played international rugby, and then to go out that first test and then win, it was fantastic, because you always dream of a test debut, but to win on your debut is also it's also special.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video, why not hit the like button?
I've had Naas Botha on the show before. I'll actually put the link up on the screen. And not only Naas, some other players as well, who spoke about the provincialism that they experienced on that tour. The idea that the Western Province guys would stick together, the Transvaal guys would stick together. Willie Hills actually made an interesting point where he said that it almost seemed as if there were two camps, where there was a group of people who were following Naas, and there was another group that wanted Jannie Breed maybe to be the captain. How did you experience all of that?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't experience too much of it. I mean, there was definitely a little bit of it, because especially I think at that stage it was the biggest rivalry was between Western Province and Northern Transvaal. So it was a little bit between those guys. But look, my roommate was Jacques, Jacques Olivier, the winger. He was my roommate, and we became great friends. And I remember I spent quite a bit of time with Adolf and and Uli and those guys. And so I don't know. I didn't experience too much of a split in the camp. I think we all knew that we've got to adapt and make some compromises and stuff. So it wasn't too bad.
Let's move on to 1993. Ian McIntosh is now the new coach, and there were discussions at the time that maybe you were going to be the new Springbok captain. Obviously, we know Francois Pienaar became the skipper in the end. But I'm just curious, were there any discussions that Mac had with you around the captaincy?
Look, not directly, no. I think that was kept at a selectors sort of level. And it was just, you just hear all the rumors and that and this. And I think the main thing also that made the difference is that, at that stage, the Transvaal team was quite prominent. They were also the reigning Super 10 champions, and they had most of the guys in the Springbok squad. So it was sort of how can I say, almost a more a logical thing that the captain comes from the team that's got the most players in the squad. So I think that was quite I think an important factor that played a role. Yeah.
And then you went to Australia, played that 3-test series against the Wallabies. How special was it to beat the Wallabies in that first test in Sydney?
Again, we were underdogs. They were, obviously, when was it, 91 world champions, and so they were definitely the favorites on the night. And but I think we were very motivated, and I think maybe they underestimated us a little bit. We had great intensity, and we pulled off a few moves that probably they didn't expect, and scored some great tries. I think the one lesson at that stage that we learned from that tour is, it almost felt like after the first test, we had a winning recipe, and we're going to stick with that. This is, it should work. But and that's what I learned later from Australia is it's so important to plan for every test. And they changed a lot of things from the first and the second test that we didn't anticipate. And they outsmarted us, and then they beat us. So I think at that stage, we had very little, obviously, international experience. And we didn't know how to, that you need to plan every test and need to have surprises every test, because you can never rest on your lowers, because the competition is so close, So that's one important lesson that we learned. Yeah.
And then after that, it was off to Argentina for a 2-test tour. I had Peter Miller on the show a couple of episodes. I'll also put that video link on the screen. Peter commented that he loved the Argentina tours for, and I'm quoting, the pretty girls and the nice meat. Would you go along with that?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that is still some of the best meat I've eaten, and the biggest steaks. We've never seen that big steaks. I remember we walked into a restaurant, and the guy had a big grill, and he was on coals as well, and he had these big steaks. And I asked him, how much did they weigh? It was like a big T-bone, and he said like between 1.3 and 1.5 kilos a steak. And I think it was only Ollie LaRue and Atherton that could finish the steaks. The other guys just had sort of half of it, yeah. And and then on the other side, we all know that the Argentinian girls are very pretty. So that was also part of the good experience from South America, yeah.
Tiaan, you scored 3 of your 4 test tries against Argentina. Was there something about them that you took a particular liking to?
Yeah, no, I think it was just coincidence, not really. But I must say, at that stage, I think we were quite a bit better than Argentina. They were the easier opponents. They weren't as strong as they are today, and so we, most of the tests at that stage we would sort of won comfortably. So but it was just a coincidence that I scored the tries against them. So, but it was good. I always say that in Argentina, the difficult games, the same was in France. It was the provincial games, because then you had local referees and the local crowd, and then it's a different ball game. The tests were the easier games actually on that tour.
All right, let's go on to 1994, first test against England in Pretoria at Loftus. I remember that the English didn't really impress in the provincial games leading up to that first test match. And there was a lot of feeling, I think certainly among the fans and I think the media as well, that we were going to win that series easily and comfortably. And then we actually got hammered in that first test match. What went wrong?
I think it was definitely, like you touched on it, that we were, we had a reasonable team the previous year, and we did fairly well, and we expected, that we would beat the English. And like I said, they weren't that impressive. And I don't know, we just didn't have the intensity that day. And also, our set pieces weren't very good. We lost a couple of lineouts and things like that, and gave away unnecessary penalties that kept the pressure on us. So, it was just one of those days. Everything we tried, didn't come off. And and it's difficult when you're on the field and it's happening to turn it around. So yeah, that was not one of our better tests that day, definitely.
We obviously went on and beat them in the second test at Newlands in Cape Town in a really good performance, and then off to New Zealand. Peter Miller, I'm going to mention that name again. Adrian Richter is another one that we've had here on Front Row Rugby, and they both told me that the New Zealand tour was the toughest one that they ever went on. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I think definitely because, we played so many games. I think if I can remember correctly, we played 14 games and, 2 a week. And it's just that there, obviously, we know the provincial rugby is a high standard. So those guys, they live to play against the Springboks, for a lot of them, that's the highlight of their career, and they want to play out of their shoes and they want to tackle the hell out of you. And it was just tough games, all of them, and a lot of them were in the mud and rain. I remember Dunedin, we haven't experienced conditions like that really in South Africa before, because we haven't toured a lot. And I remember we actually went to play golf, was it on the Wednesday or something, and the greens were actually frozen. You would chip the ball on the green and it will just run off. It's like a table, it was like frozen. So we had to abandon our golf game after a few holes. But on that Saturday, it rained so much they had, the water was like 2-3 inches right across the park, and they got a machine, almost like a big harvest machine, to pump the water off the pitch. And but it was difficult conditions, So and you play quite in a harsh environment down. I remember in Invercargill, it's cold as hell there, and it's a very hostile environment. So yeah, it was difficult. The circumstances tough, and the opponents were very motivated every game.
But you did get to captain the Springboks in the first test match against the All Blacks. Tell me about that experience.
Yeah, no, obviously, I think, Francois got concussed the game against Wellington, and then, Jannie Engelbrecht was our manager. He came to speak to me, and he said, but, we want you to captain, but you have to play on the flank, which is not my usual position at that stage, but that was fine. And obviously, it's such a great honor. And the first test, there's a huge expectancy, and I think, we were ready for that game. And I think, yes, we played. We started on fire. We played extremely well, and unfortunately, didn't convert our kicks. I think we missed 4 kicks that day. I still believe we should have won that game. We had probably had the upper hand most of the game, but just couldn't convert. But obviously disappointing not to win that game. But it was a fantastic experience.
And then after that, a home series against Argentina, where you scored another of your test tries. And I know that Ian McIntosh had been replaced by Kitch Christie. But after that Argentina series, that was the end of your Springbok career. What happened?
There's a couple of things. I think we went on to, obviously, the end of the year tour in England, and I was still in the A side. Okay, so you had your weak side and your A side, and then I actually got a bit of a flu, and I got replaced by Stroily for that game against Swansea. That was the Saturday team, and they destroyed Swansea, I think 50 points or something. And then, then obviously that was a good performance. So I didn't get selected for the first test we played. And the following test I was on the bench for 2 of the tests. But it was one of those things. Those days they didn't swap players just for the sake of swapping them. The guys, they had to get injured before they made any changes. So I think unfortunately didn't work out on that tour, but I think we still had a good end of the year tour.
Were there any kinds of conversations that you were having with Kitch Christie at that point in terms of your future?
I think he didn't believe that my form was right. Because we played. Remember, we had a conversation. We had played against Can't remember which was a weekend, a midweek team, and we lost. It was also a very wet game and muddy and everything, but we lost. And he just said, "No, but my form is not this and that." So yeah, I mean, we had a short conversation that he didn't think that I was the best player for the position at that stage. So that's why he's going to stick with Rudolf. Yeah, but that was about it. Yeah.
And then obviously 1995, and you were not selected for the World Cup team. Again, were there any conversations that you had with Kitch Christie around that, or was it just a case of you found out that you were not selected and that was the end of it?
Yeah, no, there were no conversations. Yeah, obviously you part of the the group, and then towards the final. We played the invitation side against Province just before the day before the announcements, and I thought it went well and everything. But no, there were no conversations. But Kitch, made it clear a while later that while Francois was captain and he's part of the coaching team, that I won't play for the Springboks again. So they were definitely. How can I say that he, didn't believe in me in that stage, and that he couldn't see that myself and Francois could fit into the team together,
And what was your personal relationship like with Francois?
Yeah, I never had a problem with Francois. We got on fairly okay. I would never say we were friends, but I mean, there was nothing. Bad between us. So I think it was just more a call that Christie made that it could be a bit of a conflict of followers, because I think a lot of the Natal, Free State, and the Province guys sort of saw me as the captain, and so I think Kitch wanted to avoid that the two sort of leaders in the group,
Speaking of that, I mean, I'm from Cape Town. I grew up there, Western Province supporter, and then later the Stormers. And when I was a boy, not trying to make you feel old, but you were the captain of Province at the time. And I can remember being, say, at a braai, and you'd hear my father and my uncles, they'd be talking about the Springboks and how Tiaan Strauss should be in the team, or he should actually be the captain ahead of Francois. And I have no doubt that you would have heard those kind of conversations as well. What was that like for you, having to hear that kind of stuff while being out of the picture?
Yeah, no, obviously it hurted a lot because, I trained very hard for 95. Obviously that was going to be a highlight of the career. So, it was not nice to hear those kind of conversations. And, I think it was especially not nice because you would think it wasn't really on the ability or you're not deserving your place, but more about personal clashes, which made it a bit harder to accept, So but I think it happens in sport every day and every year. So you've just got to accept it and move on,
So how easy was it for you then to make the decision to move to Australia?
Yeah, I think that wasn't the preferred option, but I think at that stage I thought that was the correct option because the door was sort of closed on this side. So it was a great opportunity that came along. And I think, rugby just turned professional, and a few of us got an offer to go and play league. And that stage we've played 10 years in South Africa, and it sounded just like a great new sort of opportunity and adventure, to live in another country and try a new code. And I think it was quite exciting and a nice adventure.
And that adventure obviously culminated with you then qualifying to play for the Wallabies, and you made your debut for them. I'm keen to hear from you. What was it like playing for Australia against the Springboks?
Yeah, I think the build-up to the test was actually the hardest. The whole week building up to the first time that we played against South Africa because, obviously there was a lot in the press about this and that, and you've got a lot of mixed emotions in yourself, and how you're going to react on the day. And it was the Springboks was such a big thing for me as well. So it wasn't easy. But I think once you run onto the field and the game starts, you just play for your team. You sort of put the emotional side out of the way, and you just play to the best of your ability for your team. And I think there was a lot of banter between the players, but I think it was all good. It wasn't too nasty, but there was some good banter from some of the the Springbok players.
And then you helped the Wallabies win the World Cup in 1999. What was that like?
It was, I always say, sometimes you're privileged just to be part of a great team. And I think it was almost like in the mid-80s when we were the Western Province team. It was just one of the greatest provincial teams, and I think the same goes for that Wallaby team. It wasn't just playing, for the Wallabies, but specifically that team. If you look at that, all the players in that team, they were a great bunch of blokes and very talented players. And, I'm still good friends with a lot of them. And I think that made it sort of more special, to be part of a team like that. And it was, I think missing out on the 95 World Cup, obviously it was a great, how can I say, compromise that to be part of the team that won the 99 World Cup, So definitely a highlight and a very special moment.
Tiaan, I ask this of all my guests. Can you share with us a funny or memorable moment from your time with the Springboks?
I think in the amateur era, the players had a lot more fun, which was great. I think since the game became professional, it's a lot more serious, and the players don't have that much fun anymore. But and also, you've got the characters like we had so many characters like Christian Stewart, and you had Adri Gelnys and these guys that were really good characters. But I remember we actually playing in New Zealand, and Adri was quite well known for his fighting or hitting some of the players, and this obviously opponent of him was irritating him, and there was this fight, like always going on. And I was the captain. We were playing in a Rotorua that day, the muddy game, and I said to the guys, we've got to stop it. The ref is not happy. He's going to penalize. He's going to send somebody off. And it wasn't the next line out, and when the ball went out, boof, Adri hit his opponent, and I called him and I said, Adri, we just spoken to him. What is the problem now? What has the guy done? He said, no, I can't believe I've only seen it now. This guy, he's playing with low cut boots. He's got no respect for me. You don't play with low cut boots against me. I've just got to teach him a lesson. So he found a good enough reason to hit the guy because he played with low cut boots.
Oh, that's hilarious. Tiaan, thank you very much. Just before I say goodbye to you, let's have a look at this week's trivia question. Who scored the Springboks' first test try of the 1993 season? Tiaan, do you know the answer?
Yes. No, that was...
You played in that test match, by the way. That's your clue.
That was must have been against Australia.
Against France, 1993, Durban.
Oh, 93 against France. Yeah. My guess would be maybe James Small.
It's not a bad guess, but the answer is Uli Schmidt.
Okay. Good stuff. Yeah.
Tiaan, that also brings an end to our conversation today. Thank you very much for being available, and it was lovely to have you on Front Row Rugby, and I hope we can have you on again in the future.
Yeah, no, Peter, my pleasure, and good luck with your show.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, why not tackle the like button? You can also subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any content from Front Row Rugby. See you next time.
Front Row Rugby. Interviews with rugby legends with Peter Stemmet.